"That old woman is the maid. Don't talk to her." Those words came from my daughter-in-law's mouth as she stood beside me in Pemberton's boutique, dismissing me to a sales clerk who had known me for 40 years. I built Gatsby Textiles from nothing after my husband died. Raised my son Rhett alone. Earned respect in a world that didn't give it freely to widows. But none of that prepared me for the moment Scarlett erased me with 8 simple words. She used my credit card to pay for her purchases that day. The same card she claimed belonged to her employer. I thought I knew what loneliness felt like when my husband died 23 years ago. I was wrong. At least death is honest. It doesn't pretend to love you first. My name is Evelyn Gatsby. I'm 74 years old. I live in a house by Lake Michigan that I bought with money I earned myself. For 43 years I ran Gatsby Textiles. Started it in my basement after Harold passed. Built it into something that employed 200 people in this town. I raised my son Rhett alone. Watched him grow into a man who inherited his father's gentle heart. When he brought Scarlett home 3 years ago, I saw the way she looked at our house, at the art on the walls, at the way people in town spoke to me with respect. She had hungry eyes. I mistook that hunger for ambition. Scarlett was beautiful in the way that stops conversations. Auburn hair that caught light like fire. A smile that could make you forget your own name. She told us she came from nothing. Said she'd worked 3 jobs to put herself through college. I admired that. I understood that. When Rhett proposed, I gave him his grandmother's ring. When they married, I paid for the wedding. When they needed a down payment for their house, I wrote the check. I thought I was helping family. I thought I was building something lasting. The first time she called me confused was 6 months after the wedding. We were at the grocery store. Mrs. Patterson from church approached us. She'd known me since I was Rhett's age. "Evelyn, dear, how are you managing?" Mrs. Patterson asked. "Oh, she has good days and bad days," Scarlett answered before I could speak. "But we're taking wonderful care of her." Mrs. Patterson's face changed. Pity replaced familiarity. She patted my hand the way you touch something fragile, something broken. I said nothing. I thought it was a misunderstanding. The second time was at my doctor's office. Scarlett had driven me to what she called an important appointment. I hadn't made any appointment. She spoke to the nurse about my memory issues and confusion with finances. She had papers with my signature on them, papers I didn't remember signing. The third time was at the bank, my bank, where I'd done business for 30 years. Scarlett presented documents making her my financial power of attorney. She explained to the manager that I could no longer handle my own affairs, that she was protecting me from myself. I watched my own life being rewritten. I watched people I'd known for decades begin to see me as someone to be managed rather than respected. But the boutique was different. The boutique was calculated cruelty. Scarlett called me on a Tuesday morning. Her voice was warm, sweet. She said she was going shopping and would love my company, would value my opinion on fabrics and colors. She said she missed spending time with me. I hadn't heard kindness in her voice for months. I should have questioned it. Instead, I felt grateful. I chose my best dress. The blue one Harold always said brought out my eyes. I put on the pearl necklace he'd given me for our 25th anniversary. I wanted to look like someone whose opinion mattered. Pemberton's was where I'd shopped since I was a young wife. The owner, Margaret, had dressed me for business meetings and charity galas. Her daughter, Claire, worked there now. 3 generations of women who understood quality, who understood me. We walked through the brass doors together. Scarlett's heels clicked against the marble floor. She moved with purpose toward the designer section. I followed. I was still trying to belong in moments that weren't meant for me. Claire approached us with the same professional warmth she'd shown me for years. She was young, eager. She recognized me immediately. "Mrs. Gatsby," she said, her smile genuine. "How wonderful to see you. And you must be Rhett's wife. I've heard so much about you." That's when Scarlett turned. Her voice was casual, dismissive, matter-of-fact. "Oh, that old woman? She's just the maid. Don't bother with her." The words landed like physical blows. I felt my face flush. My hands began to shake. Claire's expression shifted from confusion to embarrassment to that careful blankness people wear when they witness something they shouldn't. "I see," Claire said quietly. She turned away, busied herself with hangers. Scarlett continued browsing, humming softly, running her fingers over silk scarves and cashmere sweaters. She acted as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just erased 40 years of my relationship with this place, with these people. I stood frozen. My voice had simply disappeared. I wanted to correct her, to tell Claire who I really was. But the words wouldn't come. It was as if Scarlett's lie had made me invisible even to myself. She selected items with deliberate care: a wool coat, leather handbags, jewelry that cost more than most people made in a month. She piled them on the counter with the confidence of someone who'd never worried about money. When it came time to pay, she reached into her purse, pulled out a credit card, my credit card, the one with my name printed across the bottom. Claire processed the payment without looking at me, without speaking to me. I had become exactly what Scarlett said I was: background noise in my own life. We left the store in silence. Scarlett carried her bags to my car, the car I'd driven there, the car I'd paid for. She hummed that same tune while I drove us home. I didn't speak until we reached her driveway. "Why?" I asked. She looked at me with genuine confusion, as if she didn't understand the question. "Why what, Evelyn? Why did you tell her I was the maid?" Her laugh was light, airy, the sound of someone who'd never been denied anything. "Oh, that. I didn't want her bothering you with questions. You know how salespeople can be." She gathered her bags, leaned over to kiss my cheek, the same cheek she'd just slapped with her words. "Thank you for driving me, dear. You're such a help." I sat in my car outside her house for 20 minutes after she went inside. I couldn't move, couldn't process what had just happened, the cruelty of it, the casual nature of it, the way she'd stolen my identity and made me complicit in my own erasure. That night I sat in my chair by the window, the same chair where I'd grieved my husband, where I'd planned my business, where I'd watched my son grow up. I tried to make sense of what was happening to my life. I was beginning to understand that Scarlett hadn't married my son. She'd married my money, my house, my reputation, my place in this community. And she was systematically taking all of it away. The morning after the boutique, I woke up with perfect clarity. Not the kind that comes with coffee and sunlight, the kind that comes when you finally stop lying to yourself. I made breakfast, set the table for one, ate in silence while my mind worked through 3 years of memories I'd been too kind to examine closely. The grocery store incident wasn't confusion. It was strategy. The doctor's appointment I hadn't made wasn't protection. It was preparation. The bank documents I didn't remember signing weren't for my safety. They were for my money. I walked through my house that morning like a detective in a crime scene. Every room held evidence I'd been too trusting to see, too hopeful to question. In my bedroom, I opened my jewelry box. The sapphire earrings Harold gave me for our 10th anniversary were gone. The diamond tennis bracelet from my 50th birthday. Missing. The gold watch I'd worn to every business meeting for 20 years. Vanished. I'd assumed I'd misplaced them. At 74, you learn to doubt your own memory before you doubt other people's honesty. I was wrong to doubt myself. My office was next. The room where I'd built my empire, where I'd written contracts and made deals and turned raw ideas into profitable reality. The filing cabinet was unlocked, documents scattered. My investment portfolio had been moved to a different folder. Someone had been through my papers, someone who knew what to look for. I sat at my desk, the same desk where I'd signed my first business contract, where I'd balanced ledgers until my eyes burned, where I'd made the decision to keep fighting after Harold died. The phone rang. Scarlett's voice was honey-sweet. "Evelyn, dear, I hope you slept well. I was thinking we should go over your monthly expenses together. Make sure everything's organized properly." My monthly expenses. In my own house. With my own money. "That's not necessary," I said. "Oh, but it is. You know how easily these things can get confused. I'll be over this afternoon." She hung up before I could respond. She always hung up first, always ended conversations on her terms. I spent the morning going through my financial records, bank statements, credit card bills, investment reports. The numbers told a story I'd been too naive to read. Cash withdrawals I hadn't made, purchases I hadn't authorized, transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Scarlett had been draining my finances for months. Slowly, carefully. Small amounts that wouldn't trigger immediate attention. But they added up. They always add up. When she arrived that afternoon, she brought folders, official-looking papers. She spread them across my dining room table like she was conducting a board meeting. "I've been tracking your spending," she said. "You're being quite careless with money lately." She showed me receipts for purchases I'd never made, subscriptions to services I'd never heard of, charitable donations to organizations I'd never supported. "I think it's time we put some safeguards in place," she continued, "for your own protection." She had documents ready, papers that would give her complete control over my finances. She'd already filled in most of the information. All I had to do was sign. "I don't understand," I said. "It's simple, Evelyn. You're getting older. These things happen. There's no shame in accepting help." She was rewriting my competence, making my age into a disability, turning my trust into evidence of decline. I didn't sign the papers. That evening, I called my accountant. Robert Chen had handled my finances for 15 years. He knew my money better than I did. "Mrs. Gatsby," he said, "I've been meaning to call you. There's been some unusual activity on your accounts." "What kind of activity?" "Large cash withdrawals, transfers to accounts I don't recognize, changes to your investment portfolio that don't match your risk profile." He sent me copies of everything. The evidence was overwhelming. Scarlett had been systematically stealing from me for 8 months. She'd used my trust to gain access, used my love for my son to avoid suspicion. I sat in my chair by the window, the same chair where I'd grieved and planned and hoped. Now I was grieving again, not for the money, for the innocence I'd lost, for the family I'd thought I had. The next morning I followed her. She left her house at 10 o'clock, drove to the bank, my bank. She walked in with the confidence of someone who belonged there, someone who had every right to be there. I watched through the window as she spoke to the manager, saw her hand over documents, saw her smile the way she'd smiled at me when I'd thought it was real. She left with cash, a lot of cash, Money from my accounts, money I'd earned, money I'd saved, money that was supposed to secure my future. From the bank, she drove to the jewelry store, sold my sapphire earrings, the ones Harold had saved for months to buy, the ones I'd worn to every anniversary dinner for 25 years. She sold them for cash, casual, efficient, like they were worthless trinkets instead of irreplaceable memories. I followed her to 3 more stops, an expensive restaurant where she met friends, a spa where she treated herself to services that cost more than most people's rent, a boutique where she bought clothes with money she'd stolen from my accounts. She was living a life funded by my destruction. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through my house touching things I'd collected over 74 years, wondering what else she'd taken, what else she'd planned to take. I found my wedding album in the wrong place. The photo of Harold and me cutting our cake was missing. The one where we're both laughing, where his eyes are full of love and promise. She'd taken that too. Probably sold it with everything else. Turned my memories into commodities. I made a decision that night, sitting in my chair by the window, watching the moon reflect off Lake Michigan, thinking about the woman I'd been before I'd learned to doubt my own worth. I was Evelyn Gatsby. I'd built something from nothing. I'd survived loss and betrayal and the casual cruelty of a world that didn't respect women like me. I'd survived worse than Scarlett. I would survive Scarlett. But first, I needed to understand exactly what I was up against, how deep her deception went, how many people she'd convinced that I was losing my mind. I needed to know if my own son believed her lies about me. The thought of losing Rhett was worse than losing the money, worse than losing my jewelry, worse than losing my dignity in that boutique. But I had to know the truth, even if it destroyed everything I had left, especially if it destroyed everything I had left, because some truths are worth the cost of learning them. I called my son on a Thursday morning, asked if he could come for coffee, just the 2 of us. My voice was steady, casual. I'd learned to hide heartbreak behind politeness. "Of course, Mom. Is everything okay?" Everything was not okay. Everything hadn't been okay for months. But I said what mothers say when they're about to lose their children. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. I just miss you." He arrived an hour later. My Rhett. 35 years old, but still the boy who'd brought me dandelions and called them flowers, who'd held my hand at his father's funeral, who'd been the center of my world until he'd found someone else to love. I made his favorite coffee, the expensive kind he'd introduced me to, added cream the way he liked it, served it in the good china because every moment with your child should feel special. We sat in the living room, the same room where I'd read him bedtime stories, where I'd helped him with homework, where I'd watched him grow into a man I was proud of. "How are things at home?" I asked. "Great. Really great. Scarlett's been amazing. She's taken such good care of everything." "Everything. Including me, apparently." "She seems very organized," I said. "She is. You know how scattered I can be with paperwork and bills. She's got it all under control." I sipped my coffee, watched my son's face. He looked tired, older than his years, happy, but in that forced way people look when they're trying to convince themselves. "And how are you doing with money? The new house and all?" "We're fine, Mom. Actually, we're better than fine. Scarlett's been incredibly smart about investments. She's got us set up really well. My investments, my money, my lifetime of work funding their comfortable life." "I'm glad to hear it," I said. "She's been worried about you, though." The words hit like cold water. I set down my coffee cup, waited. She thinks you might be having some memory issues, confusion with finances and things like that. What kind of confusion? Nothing serious. Just forgetting where you put things, signing papers and then not remembering. Small stuff. Small stuff? My entire cognitive capacity reduced to small stuff. What do you think? I asked. I think you're 74, Mom. These things happen. There's no shame in getting help. Help? The same word Scarlett had used, the same tone, the same gentle condescension. What kind of help? Maybe someone to manage your finances. Make sure bills get paid on time. Keep track of your medications. Scarlett's offered to do it. She's got experience with this kind of thing. What kind of experience? She helped take care of her grandmother before she passed. She knows how to handle these situations. These situations. I'd become a situation. I see. Mom, you don't have to be embarrassed. We all need help sometimes. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. Saw the concern in his eyes. The love. The genuine worry about my well-being. He wasn't conspiring against me. He was trying to protect me. From myself. Tell me about Scarlett's grandmother, I said. What do you mean? How did she die? I don't know. Old age, I guess. Why? Just curious about family history. But I wasn't curious. I was suspicious. Something about that story felt wrong, too convenient, too perfectly designed to establish Scarlett's credentials as a caregiver. Rhett, do you remember when you were 8 and you broke my favorite vase? The blue one? Yeah. What did you do? I hid the pieces in the garage. Thought you wouldn't notice. And when I found them... You weren't mad. You said accidents happen, but lies make everything worse. Do you still believe that? Of course. Then I need to tell you something. And I need you to listen, without defending her. His face changed. Worry replaced comfort. He leaned forward. Mom, what's going on? Scarlett isn't taking care of me. She's stealing from me. That's not true. She's been taking money from my accounts, selling my jewelry, telling people I'm confused so she can control my finances. Mom, you're not thinking clearly. I have proof. I brought out the folder I'd prepared. Bank statements, transaction records, photos of my missing jewelry, documentation of every lie she'd told, every dollar she'd stolen. He looked through it all. His face went pale. His hands shook slightly as he turned the pages. There has to be an explanation, he said. There is. She married you for my money. That's not true. She loves me. She might, but she loves my money more. You don't understand. She's been trying to help. She said you were getting confused, making bad financial decisions. What bad decisions? Giving money to strangers, buying things you don't need, forgetting to pay bills. When have I ever forgotten to pay bills? She showed me the notices, the overdue statements. Did you see the original bills? No, but she said they were piling up, that you were overwhelmed. I haven't been overwhelmed by bills in 50 years. I watched understanding dawn on his face, slow, painful, like watching someone wake up from a beautiful dream into a harsh reality. She wouldn't do this, he said. Look at the evidence, Rhett. Look at the dates, the amounts, the pattern. He looked, really looked, saw what I'd been too trusting to see for months. This can't be right, he whispered. It's right. It's all right. But she told me you were confused. She said you needed help. I needed help. From her. From the person who was destroying my life. Oh God, Mom, what have I done? You fell in love. You trusted someone you shouldn't have trusted. You're not the first person to make that mistake. But I should have known. I should have seen it. She's very good at what she does. She made you believe you were protecting me. What do we do now? We give her a choice. She can leave quietly, or we can involve the police. She's my wife. She's a thief. But I love her. I know. That's what makes this so hard. He sat back in his chair, looked around the room where he'd grown up, where he'd learned about love and trust and the difference between right and wrong. I can't stay married to someone who would hurt you like this, he said. You don't have to decide right now. Yes, I do. This is who she is, Mom. This is who I married. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be proud. You figured it out. You stopped her. I haven't stopped her yet. What do you need me to do? I need you to be strong, and I need you to let me handle this my way. What's your way? I'm going to invite you both for dinner. Sunday, after church. Family dinner like we used to have. And then we'll see what kind of person she really is. He nodded, stood up, hugged me the way he used to when he was small, and the world was simple and mothers could fix everything. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. After he left, I sat in my chair by the window, watched the sun set over Lake Michigan, thought about the dinner I would cook, the conversation I would have, the choice I would offer. Sunday was 3 days away, 3 days to prepare for the most important meal of my life. Sunday morning I woke before dawn. Couldn't sleep. Too much riding on one meal, one conversation, one choice that would change everything. I cooked the way my mother taught me, with intention, with love. Pot roast that would fall apart with a fork, potatoes that melted in your mouth, green beans from my garden, apple pie made from scratch. Food was my language of love, always had been, even when love was about to end. I set the table with my best china, the pattern Harold had chosen for our first anniversary, arranged flowers from my garden, white roses, his favorite. Everything had to be perfect for what was coming. The manila folder sat on the kitchen counter, thick with evidence, bank statements, credit card records, photos of my missing jewelry, proof of every lie she'd told, every dollar she'd stolen. I placed it beside Scarlett's usual seat, right where she'd see it when she sat down. They arrived at 2 o'clock. Rhett looked tired, strained. He'd been wrestling with the truth for 3 days. It showed in his eyes, his posture, the way he held his shoulders. Scarlett was radiant, wore a new dress I'd never seen. Expensive, probably bought with my money. She kissed my cheek like nothing had changed, like she hadn't spent months erasing me from my own life. Something smells wonderful, she said. Pot roast, I replied. Rhett's favorite. You're so thoughtful, Evelyn. Always taking care of everyone. Taking care of everyone, while she took care of my money. We sat at the dining room table, the same table where I'd fed my family for 30 years, where I'd celebrated birthdays and holidays, where I'd taught my son about gratitude and honesty. Rhett was quiet, picked at his food, kept glancing between Scarlett and me, waiting for something to happen. Scarlett chatted about work, about friends, about plans for their upcoming vacation, a cruise to Europe, first class, all expenses paid by me. That sounds expensive, I said. Oh, we've been saving, haven't we, honey? Rhett nodded. Didn't meet my eyes. I'm glad you're doing so well financially, I said. Scarlett's been amazing with money, Rhett said. Really amazing. I'm sure she has. During the main course, I stood to clear plates. Scarlett jumped up to help. Always the perfect daughter-in-law when it suited her. Sit, Evelyn. Let me handle this. I can manage. I know you can. But I want to help. Help. That word again. I sat back down, watched her move around my kitchen, my dining room, my house, like she belonged there, like she owned it. She probably thought she did. When we finished eating, I brought out dessert, apple pie and coffee. Scarlett's smile was bright, genuine. She was enjoying herself, enjoying the performance. This is lovely, she said. We should do this more often. We should, I agreed. Then I placed the folder beside her plate. Her smile faltered, just slightly, just enough to show she knew what was coming. What's this? She asked. Open it. She looked at Rhett. He stared at his coffee cup. Couldn't help her. Wouldn't help her. She opened the folder. Her face went white, then red, then white again. I can explain, she said. Please do. These numbers are wrong. There's been some kind of mistake. What kind of mistake? I don't know. Banking errors, identity theft. Someone's been using your accounts. Someone has been using my accounts, I said. You. That's not true. The evidence says otherwise. Evidence can be manipulated, especially when someone's memory isn't reliable. She was still trying to gaslight me, still trying to make me doubt my own mind. My memory is fine, I said. My accountant's records are fine. The bank's records are fine. Your story is what's unreliable. Rhett, tell her. Tell her I wouldn't do this. Rhett finally looked up. His eyes were red, tired, full of a pain I'd hoped I'd never see. I can't, he said quietly. What do you mean you can't? I mean, I can't tell her that, because I don't believe it anymore. You're supposed to be on my side. I am on your side, but not when you're wrong. Not when you're hurting my mother. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm helping. I'm protecting her. From what? From herself. From making bad decisions. From people who might take advantage of her. People like you. That's not fair. Fair? I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the lake where I'd found peace for so many years. Was it fair when you told the sales clerk I was your maid? Was it fair when you stole my jewelry? Was it fair when you convinced doctors I was losing my mind? I never said you were losing your mind. You didn't have to say it. You just had to suggest it. Let other people draw their own conclusions. You're being paranoid. I'm being realistic. Finally. She turned to Rhett, desperation creeping into her voice. You know I love you. You know I love this family. Do you? He asked. Or do you love what we can give you? How can you ask me that? Because I'm looking at proof that you've been stealing from my mother for months. Because I'm remembering all the times you told me she was confused. All the times you offered to help with her finances. I was helping. You were stealing. I was protecting our future. Our future was never yours to protect. The truth was finally out. Our future. She'd been planning to inherit everything, to push me aside and take my place in my own family. I have a choice for you, I said. What choice? You can leave, pack your things, file for divorce, disappear from our lives quietly. And if I don't? I call the police, press charges, let the legal system handle this. You wouldn't do that. Try me. She looked around the room, at the evidence spread across the table, at Rhett's face, at the future she'd planned crumbling around her. I need time to think. You have until morning. That's not enough time. It's more than you gave me when you were destroying my life. She gathered her purse, stood up, smoothed her dress, the expensive one she'd bought with my money. I'm sorry you feel this way, she said. I'm sorry you are this way. She left without saying goodbye to Rhett, without another word to me. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Rhett and I sat in silence for a long time, the evidence still scattered across the table, the remains of our family dinner growing cold. I'm sorry, Mom, he said finally. You don't have anything to be sorry for. I brought her into our family. I trusted her. I let her hurt you. You loved her. That's not a crime. It feels like one. Love makes us vulnerable. It doesn't make us stupid. I feel stupid. You feel betrayed. There's a difference. He helped me clear the table, wash the dishes, put away the evidence. We worked in comfortable silence, father and son, the way it used to be. What happens now? He asked. Now we rebuild. We remember who we are. We move forward. Together? If you want to. I want to. 3 days later, Scarlett was gone. Moved out while we were at church. Left no forwarding address, no explanation, no apology. She chose to disappear rather than face the consequences of her choices. I chose to let her go. Today, Rhett lives here with me. We cook together, garden together. Remember how to be a family, without someone trying to tear us apart. The house feels peaceful again, full of love instead of lies, full of trust instead of manipulation. I'm 74 years old. I've survived my husband's death, built a business from nothing, raised a son who knows the difference between right and wrong. I survived Scarlett, too. Some stories end with forgiveness, others end with justice. Mine ended with my son coming home. And that's enough.